Hi everyone, this is Neel Raithatha, consultant audiologist and director of WAXscope. Thank you for joining me in my latest video using the WAXscope. And I have a really interesting case. It's of a patient who attended with a blocked left ear. And this soft consistency of wax was not only fully occluding the ear canal, but it was impacted and embedded right up against the eardrum. So whenever you work closer to the eardrum, it always makes the procedure a bit more complex. And as you can see, we're working very close to this patient's canal walls. And for that reason, I'm using the fine end suction probe. So the Zollner suction probe, which is the normal suction probe that we use to perform microsuction, it has an outer diameter of around 2 or 2.1 millimeters. Whereas with the fine end, I'm using a 17 gauge fine end, so it's about 1.4, 1.5. May not seem a lot, relatively speaking, but when you're in the ear, and remember the ear canal itself, it's got an average height of around 1 centimeter and an average width of around 0.6 to 0.7 millimeters. So we're working in a very confined space, and even a 0.5 millimeter or so difference in the ear can be quite substantial when working, especially very deep in the ear up against the eardrum. So we've already revealed the eardrum at 3 o'clock, so that's the posterior part. And it would have been far easier if this patient's wax was really dry and firm, because as soon as you make contact with it, it will peel away. But because of its soft nature, it is embedded. And I want to try and avoid using any olive oil, for example, because this patient wears a hearing aid, and the last thing I want is for this patient then to leave the clinic and some of the oil, despite my best efforts of drying up the ear, entering the internal workings of the hearing aid and causing it to malfunction. Sometimes it's not possible. We have to use the drops to change the consistency to kind of coagulate the soft wax. But fortunately, I was able to remove this minus using any drops. So slowly but surely, the eardrum's revealing itself. As the procedure continues, you're going to see moments where I use the new Zoom feature, which is available via the WAXscope app. Now, the WAXscope app is at the present only available in the UK and Europe, but it will hopefully be available worldwide. So you can use it with any endoscope or any otoscope that has a standard eyepiece. So I think the eyepiece is 37.5 millimeters, and it will connect. But one of the advantages of the WAXscope app is that we can really zoom in. Now, if you over zoom, the image will be a bit grainy and not so clear. So unfortunately, you don't have to over zoom, you only have to zoom in a little bit, but it did really help zooming in when I'm working against the eardrum. But as you can see now, it just brings the wax in focus, but it also allows me to more accurately position and place the suction tube. You can see how close we are to the anterior canal wall here, and that zoom just really helps me to avoid making contact with the anterior canal wall and just make contact with the wax. Now, they have got quite a prominent anterior recess. As we approach the ear canal narrows and then widens, and it normally widens on the front wall, and it creates a pocket, a recess, because it's the front part of the eardrum. We call it the anterior recess. And sometimes with a microscope or with the WAXscope or head-worn microscopes, it's very difficult to even visualize the anterior recess region of the ear canal. With an endoscope, almost nothing is out of sight with an endoscope, both due to the fact that the lens of an endoscope is inside the ear, but also because the endoscope has a negative lens at the tip, so it gives you this really wide panoramic field of view. So I'm just working at the roof of this patient's eardrum and ear canal. We can't yet see the short process of the malleus. So we can see the hammer bone, the manuobrum. This is the handle of the malleus. And at the top of the handle, there's a little sphere, and you can call that the lateral process or the short process. So that's still smothered with wax. Again, I'm just entering. The short process is now revealed. So I'm just manipulating the speculum in the ear. So I'm angling my wrist so I can change the angle towards the anterior recess. I think now I'm just going to go to the back, peel away some of this keratin, and I'm going to go to the roof of the ear canal here and peel away some of the skin adhesions that's there. And again, the zoom feature really helped. So again, we're entering the anterior recess. And you've got to be careful not to push the suction probe too hard, because otherwise you're going to be just smothering and pasting the soft wax and further compressing it and embedding it against the eardrum. So you almost want to hover over the top if possible and let the suction work its magic to bring it away. Now this patient has to attend biannually, so they are a frequent flyer, so to speak. They do produce a lot of dead skin, so not only this is earwax, but it's a higher concentration of dead skin. And because they have got quite a prominent anterior recess, it's likely that the skin, as it's migrating off the eardrum in that region, it's getting trapped in that pocket, leading to an overall impaction of the ear. So I'm just gone to the back part of the eardrum. And this probably gives you a good idea of how narrow the ear canal is. I'm having to use the specular to really dilate it. A bit later on, I'm also going to revert to the smaller size specular. The specular size that you're seeing here is our medium size specular, which was fine. But when I'm really working in that anterior recess, I just wanted to be able to enter the ear canal a bit further. So I used a smaller size specular, which has an outer diameter of 3.5 millimeters. And of course, when you've got a smaller specular, you're going to see more of the specular on screen. But when you zoom in, you actually eliminate some of that rim. Now, when you remove earwax using an ENT microscope or head loops, you actually see far more of the specular. It's only when an endoscope that you don't see the specular, and that's because with an endoscope, you don't utilize a specular. Although you do have specular for endoscopes, it's more for visualizing the inside of the ear rather than performing procedures. But by using a specular with an endoscope, you're actually taking away from one of the USPs of an endoscope, which is its wide field of view. So here is the smaller specular, so you can probably see the rim a bit more than the medium size, but when you zoom in, which I probably will in a moment, so I'm just getting that wax in focus, there's less of the specular visible. So again, we're entering this anterior recess, and I'm really stretching the patient's ear canal. The outer third is made up of cartilage, which is semi-malleable. So as long as the cartilage is not too stiff, we do have some wriggle room there. We can really stretch and straighten the ear canal. There is a limit, of course, but with the bony part of the ear canal, of course, that's rigid, it's solid, we can't manipulate that. So again, just going a bit higher up here. And again, I think it's just a good demonstration of the precision that's possible to move with the WAXscope when removing earwax. So once more, just dilating the ear. Now, the eardrum is obliquely orientated, so about 1 or 2 o'clock on the eardrum is actually closer to the ear canal entrance. And then where I'm at the moment, around 7, 8 o'clock, the eardrum is actually offset deeper in the ear canal, and it gives the eardrum this oblique orientation. The tilt is around, say, I think about 30 to 40 degrees, so it's quite a significant tilt. And I don't know whether you were able to see that when I entered the ear, but you could actually visualize that oblique orientation using the WAXscope. So again, I'm just going to re-enter. I've just zoomed out for a moment. It's just a little bit left. Truth be told, we could have probably left this, but because they've got such a prominent anterior recess, I just want to get as much out as possible, because I don't think this is self-migrating. Unless it's cleaned out, this part of this patient's ear canal is always going to collect a bit of dead skin and wax, and by removing it, it potentially helps the next layer of skin to fully migrate. Now, of course, if it was becoming uncomfortable for the patient and I felt I was at risk of perforating the eardrum, we would stop. But this patient is a frequent attendee to the clinic, and they're very still, they understand the procedure, and I feel really confident working this close to the patient's eardrum. And I think more or less I've cleaned that, so there is a bit of debris here and there, but I think by removing all these little pieces, I am pushing the boundaries a bit, and I don't want to do that. Really, really pleased with that. So I'm just having a good nosy around. Just getting the eardrum into focus as well. So they do suffer from a bit of otitis externa, a bit of dry, flaky skin of the ear canal. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys, and if you are interested in the WAXscope, please do email info@clearwax.co.uk. Thank you, bye.